Hello everyone. Well, hello. First person. First person on now on Twitter. So all right, today is the last day of the sentiment analysis. We can do this. Let's bring it down to the finish line. 2 people. All right, how you doing? Hello, Auzigo. How you doing? It's been a while. How's Kenya these days? I've been following along with the whole Ruto situation. It's still interesting. Interesting what's happening there. I hope you're doing fine though. Long time no see. Are you coming to Berlin by any chance to the CodeSync conference? No, Berlin. Yeah. I'm also not going, I guess, to the Berlin conference. And I'm trying to save some money, trying to buy a car. You know, lots of expenses this year, and just going there, it's it's just too expensive. Yeah, but next year would be nice. I mean, I always loved CodeSync, to be honest. Last year was really cool. You were there too. Maybe next year again. Yeah, but certainly for what is it, ElixirConf in Warsaw in Poland. I will be there at least. It probably will be very difficult to get a visa for you to Poland, right? But would be nice if people would come. That would be great. Yeah, probably won't get another one then. Yeah. All right, let's start. I think some people are in the chat. Well, at least Sigo. Some people are watching. Well, 1 on Twitch, 2 on YouTube, 17 on Twitter, which I don't believe. Sounds good. Philippe, Time for another Elixir ASMR. I'm gonna do it like this the whole time. Now the project we're working on currently is a sentiment analysis pipeline for BlueSky. So we are connecting to the BlueSky firehose API. That is where we get all the events of everything that happens at BlueSky. And we run them through Broadway for like as a pipeline. And we run them through the BERT model for sentiment analysis. So, that looks at every single post and says, is it a positive? Is it a negative post? And we store these averages currently by the 10 seconds in a database. And the database has TimescaleDB enabled. So the idea for today's stream would be to get that, to use timescale for calculating these averages over time. Last time we finished pretty much the whole pipeline. So we get the data, we run it through the sentiment model, and we store it in the database, and we even visualize it with live view and e-charts. But we didn't manage to implement the timescale thing because it was kind of tricky. So I would say today will be the last session about that particular project. Of course, it's not production ready, but this is more like hey, let's try out cool new things, live stream anyway. So the last thing that I would like to do today is just to figure out TimescaleDB to, create averages over time for every minute. Yeah, for every minute. I think if we get that done, so that we have a nice smoothed graph of every minute sentiment, then I think we should be fine. And then from there on, of course, we could go on and build it out, but I think it's fine if we stop there, because I got pretty cool projects coming up as well, and I kind of rather want to move on. So next week on Monday, I'm gonna start live streaming a new project, which is to build a Twitch clone, basically. And what I want to use for that is Membrane. So that is a really, really cool Elixir library. And they recently released a new library, which is called Boombox. And Boombox kind of is an abstract layer, like a higher level layer on top of Membrane, the underlying library. And because Membrane, it's super powerful, but it also gives you a lot of configuration options. And it's a little tricky to work with for smaller projects. It's more meant for large scale projects where you really need to tweak all the options of your streaming pipeline. So the Membrane team, they realized, it might be a little hard to work with Membrane itself. So they added Boombox on top of it. And that makes things like adding for example, like a WebRTC channel, it makes it really easy to use that, the Boombox thing. And one thing in particular is the RTMP protocol. That's something I want to use and try out, because we're using RTMP. If we can expose an RTMP stream, we can connect it to a website and just stream my local, like my OBS software to that website. So just like Twitch does, right? Where you connect your OBS software to Twitch, and then you hit start streaming and it streams to Twitch directly. And I would like to have the same, but then not with Twitch, but to our own website, basically, where I can hit start streaming, and then it's gonna connect it to the website. And then we can add a chat system there. We can also maybe add something which I think would be interesting, which is to add Whisper. So to add kind of like real-time transcriptions using Whisper, the model. And then we can kind of show it, underneath that stream. So then you can actually see what I'm saying in written form as well as in video form. So that would be cool. Yeah, so that's going to be next week. So for today, we still need to wrap up the sentiment project. So let's have a look at that one, how the current state is. Basically, yeah, we got our WebSocket connection there to actually a jet stream. So that is not the official BlueSky Firehose API, but it's a kind of like it's a community project that is now also merged into the official BlueSky repository, but they actually make it easier to connect to the Firehose API because you can filter whatever you're receiving. In our case, we're receiving posts only, and we don't want to we don't want to receive like likes and retweets and these kind of things. So we only want to receive posts. And we also want to receive them in JSON form because the other stuff, the official one, is encoded in CBOR, which is an encoding protocol. So it's, we need to decode it and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we connected to Jetstream. And then we actually use a Broadway pipeline for handling all of that. Well, actually, the first thing is we dump it into a buffer, which uses a ring buffer with like, I think 10,000 events. So we only store 10,000 events. And whenever, we reach the full buffer, like when the buffer is full, it actually overwrites the first event again. And, that's kind of just a buffer between the WebSocket connection and our pipeline. And then from our pipeline, we have a producer, and that one handles the demand here. So that was a little tricky to set up because we need to handle like Broadway asking, hey, give me 10 events, and then we fetch maybe only 5 events from the buffer, and then we need to, handle the 5 event request there. So we need to kind of keep track of how many events we already have and how many we still need, and then only we send back the batch of events once we reach that demand. So that was a little tricky, and there was like a off by 1 error too, so this kind of stopped our whole pipeline. But we figured that out, and yeah, we use Broadway now just for the to process the data. And in our case, processing means just like filtering out non-English posts. So we do that over here, just by matching against the language. And then the other thing is the batching. And the batching here is, hey, Brian, you're back indeed. Happy Friday to you, end of the week. Thanks for stopping by. I'm just walking people through the project here, just to get them up to speed again. I just spoke about the WebSocket, the producer and all. But yeah, you probably heard that. Anyway, but what I'm doing now is, I'm talking about the Broadway batching step here, because we have our processing step where we just filter out our message based on their language. We only want to have English messages, like posts. And then once we have enough messages together, we actually run them through our BERT model. And this one is super cool because it's literally a single line of code. And you can do a batched run. So you send it in a batch to the model. It handles every single message and it gives you back the result, which is also a list of results. Yeah, and that is actually super fast. So I think our batching is currently 15 messages at once. And we run this on a local CPU. It's not even a GPU accelerated model. So we just run it locally on a MacBook M2 with a single core. And yeah, that one takes like a second to analyze 15 messages. 15 per second. It's pretty good. Yeah, and that's only a CPU, so on a GPU it will be much faster still. Yeah, and then once we have all the predictions, all the results for our posts, like the sentiment analysis predictions, we basically average them up, and I made the decision here to convert the floating predictions where it's like, I'm 98% sure that this is a positive post. We just convert them to like 1, -1, and 0 values basically. So that's what we do here. We just sum up all the 15 predictions, and then we say, well, like the average over these 15 is, like if all of them are positive, we would have the sum of 15. So that is our average sentiment. Well, that's our sum of sentiment for the 50 messages. And what I'm just doing is I gather all this information, all the sum, in what I call a dumper. And that one is just a gen server that receives the message, the sums and the count, like for every batch. So every batch of 15 messages, we run it through the sentiment analysis model. We get their sum back, so we calculate like, is this like 5 positive and 5 negative and 5 neutral ones? So we sum that up, and then we just send all the data here to the dumper. And from the dumper, we dump it into the database, in this case, every 10 seconds. Yeah, so that actually just, reduces our stress on the database a little bit, and we don't need to have more fine-grained data. We don't need to store every single batch in the database. We can just store it by, 10 seconds, like how you say, averages basically. So yeah, we do that. And then the last piece of the puzzle is our live view, where we bring everything together. And this one is using eCharts. So we have our eCharts. It's kind of like, yeah, it's just a charting library, but I really enjoy it. It's really cool. It's really good. It looks really nice. Yeah, and that's why we use it instead of Vega Lite. I never really work well with Vega Lite. But yeah, this is what we use here. And basically what we do is just create the graph. And then whenever like we load the graph, we actually fetch the data points and we load them into the graph. And whenever a new data point arrives, then we also kind of listen, to every new point and we add it to the live view. So if I start the server now, oh yeah, I need to set up my database again. Actually, I should have let this run. So if I go to localhost, yeah, right now you see that we have 0 timestamps here because I think I deleted the database in between. But you could see that now we are receiving posts. In our case, for the first 10 seconds, we received 69 posts and then 71 posts. And you can already see that we now slowly every 10 seconds get an average of the posts that we received in these 10 seconds. Yeah, and we have some averages here. They weren't too useful. So yeah, this one is eventually going to plot every 10-second data point, which is too high accuracy. So we need to use TimescaleDB now to, average those out, to average every 10-second timestamps into 1 minute, and then only show the sentiment per the minute, right? And yeah, we also have the green one here, which is the post count. So you can see that we average, like right now it's 88 posts per 10 second. And yeah, that varies a little. And also I think it varies mostly because of the language. Sometimes you just get more English posts into your batch, and sometimes you get more, I don't know, Japanese and Portuguese. Actually, those are the 2 other big languages being used on BlueSky. And it depends on, the batch that you currently process. So it might happen that you don't have enough English posts, because I think the rest of the pipeline is pretty stable. And we can also look at the dashboard, because in there we have the Broadway pipeline. And yeah, you can see that right now I think this processor here is our batcher. So yeah, sometimes the batcher is a little bit more busy, but eventually I think it's always the batcher. Yeah, that is the most busy. Yeah. All right. Well, we also have a lot of failed ones. Yeah, but they are failed because they are basically filtered out because of the language. So you can see that we only have 400 successful English ones, and then we have 2,000 failed ones. So those might be Japanese and Portuguese ones, not English ones. Yeah. Alrighty. So you can already see it's coming along nicely. It's showing us a nice graph of the sentiment in blue and the count in green, and they also have 2 y-axes here. But the problem with the sentiment a little bit is that it's very much around the neutral, like 0 thing. So I'm not sure what would improve this. Like if we would take it over a whole minute, if we would store it by the minute, it might improve, because then we would add up all these ones, or we would actually average these out as well. I don't know. So in general, the sentiment is pretty neutral. It's not that they're all super positive and all super negative. It would be interesting to run this against Twitter and see, how it changes with Twitter. But yeah, with BlueSky, it's surprisingly neutral all the time. So anyway, but yeah, the last thing that I wanted to do here now is basically replace this view with a view where we have like per minute averages, and for that we wanted to use TimescaleDB. And I had my issues with that last week. No, what was it? Tuesday? Because yeah, basically what you need to do here is you need to basically write the query in SQL. You know, so there is the TimescaleDB the library, and that offers you some Ecto-like queries and all, but not all of them are supported. And for example, the average wasn't supported, you know, and that's just a little tricky. So what I would like to do here is just to kind of try to figure out this query here, and then once we figure that out, then we can actually use it and show it in the live view. Yeah, and for that I wanted to do the app data points and then get average. That is the query that we're running, and we can see that we receive an error here, and I have no clue. So the average does not exist. What we managed to do actually is to kind of wait, hang on. Yeah, we managed to like bucket these things by the minute, so that worked already. But you know, more than that, I couldn't figure out yet. That's the issue. So we can also do like a count, I think. Yeah, now we get a count of entries, right? And that, yeah, should be 6 per minute. Sometimes it's less because I started at the middle of the minute or so. But now, yeah, we want to have the time scale, and then we need to go to the official documentation. And in here, I thought I saw like an average function, but somehow it's not working. Average bucket. Yeah, average. Yeah, this is what we're doing. We're creating a bucket basically. So we say, well, bucket all the information. Oh, you just do average. Oh, well, that's easy. Look. Average of the average. Oh, there we go. Oh man, you know, like it's one of these things. Last Tuesday I streamed and it took me half an hour to just understand how TimescaleDB works, and now I'm coming back and within 2 minutes we kind of fixed it. Yeah, so now you can see we're averaging the averages over in every bucket here. So yeah, and then we get it per minute, I believe. But they're not sorted, so maybe we should sort them as well. Maybe sort by dt and then ascending. I think. No. Order by, not sort by. Group by, order by. Yeah, let's see. Let's see where we can. Here, look. They actually do that here. Order by bucket ascending. The comma here shouldn't be there. Call this bucket ascending. Yeah, there we go. So now we have it sorted by bucket ascending. Cool. Alrighty, well, yeah, now we can do result rows, basically. And then we just do the result and result rows. And that should return our data here. Yeah. All right, thank you, Philippe. Now we have a database expert here, somebody working for Superbase. Of course, you immediately see that error, didn't you? Congrats, by the way, on the 90 million, 80 million Series C for Superbase. You know, out of the 90, how many millions do you get? Nah, but it's pretty exciting to see Superbase doing so well. I'm a big fan of them, actually. Not only because they hire my friends, which I appreciate a lot too, but also because they do really cool stuff. Yeah. And you know, to be frank with you, I always feel like an imposter, to be honest. After like 6 years of writing Elixir every day, I still feel like an imposter when I see people working on like real-time stuff with Elixir for Superbase. You know, we have like hundred thousands of customers and events coming through and all. And there was also another time like a discussion with the person behind what is it, Logflare, I think, the logging drain for Elixir that then sold to Superbase. And you know, I spoke with the guy who built it and his colleague, and they told me that they had like what is it, like 600 CPU cores running in production. They had like 50 or so servers, 60 servers. I don't know exactly the numbers, but like a lot of numbers just for the logging, right? And I'm looking at that scale, and you know, that just makes me feel so small. Like, you know, I rarely work with systems that have more than one server. And I mean, they all deliver value, they all make good money, but it's still, it's very much like product work. You know, it's not that technical that I have to think, oh, you know, how do I scale this to like 100,000 users? And there was today also that I read a blog post about Discord, and they really like Discord. The blog posts are amazing because they really go into the detail of how they, you know, get the most out of the beam, basically. You know, they find like these little flags you can influence, and then out of a sudden your memory for one particular thing is like twice as much as your default, and that allows them, you know, to reduce their WebSocket traffic by like 40% and that kind of stuff. Like, not like, you have to read the blog post, but it's just, I read these kind of things and I'm like, yeah, I'm not on that level. Like, I wouldn't even know where to start when somebody comes to me and says, well, you know, our compression algorithm that we're using is too slow. Can you please improve it? And I'm like, oh my God, okay, so where do we even start, you know? So, I mean, when I read these use cases, I'm just like, yeah, I'm such a small person in this community, and there are really, really smart people out there that do the cool stuff. So, yeah, that's my thinking about it. But, you know, I know Logflare, yeah. Chases built Logflare. And then he also, well, got acqui-hired, I guess, by Superbase, and he's working for them now. I always think, you know, maybe at one point I should just get hired, or like try to get hired by one of these companies and just see how it is to actually build a system of that scale. Yeah, let's see, maybe, who knows, you know, maybe after the whole me being a freelancer and just doing these little live streams on the side. Ziggler and Rustler. Well, I am working with Rust now. So I can write a little Rust script, and I can use Rustler. Maybe that's, you know, good enough. But I don't know. Like, the beam is, because it also has 40 years of experience, or 40 years of history, right? So yeah, and I didn't even get into these like flags you can set for running the beam, and what they mean actually for your system, right? And like, the first start there is also just to look at your system and understand where the problem lies, right? The observability of your system. And there was another blog post that I read today, which was about the like observability tools that you have for you know, checking stuff. Hey, hello. For example, obviously you can start the observer, and yeah, but you have to add it to your system actually. So I don't think I have it running here, so I couldn't even start the observer. See, that's already where it starts. And then you also have the observer client, no, CLI actually. Does it exist? No, it doesn't exist either. You know, hey, hello. But you know, you can start there, and then you might see some bottlenecks in your system. But you know, just like the whole like debugging on that level, that is something that I'm not familiar with. But maybe I will learn that at one point. Yeah. The busy wait flag, yeah. Exactly. So the Erlang flags, where is it here? Erlang flags, Erl. And then you had the busy wait. Yeah, it's a dependency, yeah. See, I can't even find that flag. Where do I start with the... Is it busy wait? Condition wait, dry wait. Now, where do you even find the flags? Here, emulator flags? No. Like here, Discord, the WebSocket 40% thing. how Discord reduced WebSocket traffic by 40%. That's what I read today. And in here they had one flag that they eventually used to improve something, like a buffer size somewhere. Where was it? It's really interesting here, the driver allocator, that one. Earl driver. Okay, and somewhere in here you have the driver alloc function, and then it allocates the memory block of the size specified in size and returns it. It fails only on out of memory, in which case nulls return. Yeah, so like how do you even arrive this? How do you even know what this thing does? I mean, even the menu here is like, the manual is kind of like, well, you know, allocates a memory block. Cool. To what? for what? You know? Yeah. The function is thread save. Cool. But it's just, you really need to understand the beam in such a detail to understand that stuff. Yeah, so here they said, to try and mitigate this, whatever the problem was, we did a little experimentation to tweak the beam allocator settings. More specifically, the driver allocator, which is responsible for, shockingly, driver data allocations. Well, then I'm like, what is a driver data allocation? The bulk of the memory used by a gateway processes a Z standard streaming context, which is implemented in C using a NIF. NIF memory usage is allocated by driver alloc. Here we go. How do you get to this point? Where do you understand that? Like, what do you need to read to understand that, how the NIF memory is allocated, and that the driver alloc is what, you know, controls that? I mean, if you Google for it, yeah, it's nothing there. Man, really. Somebody should write a book about this. They would make a lot of money. Because I think that's also one of these blocks, like one of these levels where people just, you know, they will never get a glimpse of it in their day job, and like, but they would actually need to know it, or it would be interesting for them to know about this stuff, because maybe they run into an issue that they can solve with these allocator flags, right? But there is no, I don't know, I wouldn't even know where to start with this stuff. You know, if I search for well, this is Ertz, with the original, the Erlang documentation, right? Documentation. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, then we see the same thing again, and probably they have like a guide somewhere. So if I search for this, no. But yeah, then we would look at the Earl driver. Disable busy wait SBW2 none. Okay. Yeah. What does help? The documentation helps? Yeah, I guess you could just read through the, you just need to read through the Erlang documentation. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, just wanted to share that with you, that I felt especially the imposter syndrome today. The Heroku guy was an Erlang book. Is it Fred Herbert, operable Erlang and Elixir? Is it Erlang and Anger? Might be Erlang and Anger. I like that word. Stuff goes bad. Yes, this one. Okay. All right. It's a free ebook even. All right. I'm gonna read that. Let's see. Maybe I learned something. I like it. The book intends to be a little guide about how to be the Erlang medic in time of war. It is first and foremost a collection of tips and tricks to help understand where failures come from and a dictionary of different code snippets and practices that help developers debug production systems that were built in Erlang. All right, that sounds good. It's only 93 pages, so that's cool. Do they mention the driver alloc though? They do. Used to store driver data in particular, which doesn't keep drivers that generate Erlang terms from using other allocators. The driver data allocated here contains locks, mutexes, options, Erlang ports, and so on. Okay, well, they talk about allocators. That's good. Maybe if you understand this, then you understand where it comes from. Yeah. Yeah, the reading stream soon. I can, man, but I mean, if we would read this together, I would just, my head would explode. Okay. However, in the Discord here in the blog post, they do mention the fragmentation, I think. Yeah. So here they say, our hypothesis was that if we could tweak the driver alloc allocator to more effectively allocate or free memory for our Z standard context. So the Z standard is the compression library that they are trying out. So they had like Z standard, ZSTD or something before, and they want to replace it with Z standard. Where is it? Yeah, the zlib, and then they want to replace it with Z standard for compressing messages between their server and the client. Yeah, and they talk all about the driver alloc here. So they say our hypothesis was that if we could tweak the driver alloc allocator to more effectively allocate or free memory for our Z standard contexts, we'd be able to decrease fragmentation and increase upgrade ratio overall. I guess these guys or people were just reading this book, and then they read about memory fragmentation. And interesting. Yeah, maybe that's a way to go, Philippe. Thank you very much for pointing out this book. Maybe it's if you run on that scale as Discord does, and you want to get the most out of your machines, you just read this book, and whenever you're like, is that maybe an issue we're running into? You try to test it out, and you just go through every single tip here until you find some that might actually help you. I don't know. That would be a good approach, I guess. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, if you want to learn more about that stuff, then go read this book, The Erlang in Anger. I love it. By Fred Hebert. What does he do now? Fred. I guess a couple of cool blocks too. Where does he work now? BlueSky. Look, he's on BlueSky as well. He's a staff SRE at Honeycomb. Okay. Observability. All right, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds fitting. All right, that was a little tangent into Erlang allocators. You know, on this live stream, I will never not surprise you with new topics. You thought we were talking about TimescaleDB, but you know, what you did not expect is a deep dive into the Erlang allocator flex, I guess. Now today, I hope you learned something from this. Yeah. All right. Well, so what we were actually working on, let's maybe go back to that after we went on this little tangent. But the advantage of this is we have more data now. So that was my whole reason why I was just ranting about Erlang flags, because now we have average data over every minute bucket here. So what I would like to do is, instead of listing the data points, maybe we just make that a toggle, you know, on the website. So instead of like just always having this here, we just have a toggle, and we can toggle between real time or data points and averages. Let's make it that way. So I'm just getting data points. Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna do that in the handle params, and then we can actually change that with a button. So tab is map And then if we do tab, so I'm just gonna move all this stuff into a nice little helper function. So if it's data points, then I'm just gonna do set up data points, and that way we can have a little toggle at the top here. I'm just gonna make this like 2 buttons. Jesus, sorry, I'm a little not able to write today somehow. I'm just gonna do this like tab. Data points. Okay, now we have our first link, and we're gonna make a second tab for the averages. I'm gonna call this averages. All right, let's see how that looks. All right, I need to do a no reply here. Because now we're in the handle params callback. Okay, and I got my things here. Oh. Can't configure stream. Oh, interesting. Well, then I'm just gonna, so we can't, what to say, we can't configure the stream data points after it has been streamed. I mean, the reason for this is that, you know, we try to, whenever we hit handle params, we try to, configure that stream again. And because we call handle params once when we start the tab, then we already configured the stream. And then if we try to click on the tab again, we try to configure the stream once more. So what I'm just gonna do here is I'm just gonna configure both streams in, let's just when we mount, and then we can just push the data to each, and that should be fine. So I'm just gonna do this, and then it's averages, and yeah, when our results. We need to map our results here, because we first have the timestamp and then we have the average, and I'm just gonna make that a map instead. So datetime and average. Well, not map. Yeah. Okay. So now if we fetch our data from the backend, from the database, we should be getting a list of streams, a list of averages, and they have they are map of data. Jesus, it's almost weekend, eh? I think I just need a weekend. I'm very, very freaking tired. It's been a long week. But I wanted to wrap this up so that on Monday we can start afresh with a new project. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, so we are returning from this query a list of maps, and they all have a date, time, and an average key. And then in our live view, we also need to configure our stream for the averages to get an ID for every element. And we're going to use the datetime for that. All right. How are you feeling at the end of the week, everybody? Are you doing okay? And somewhere we have items. Yeah, we just need to do like this. And we gotta rewrite this thing. Because we first want to push the data points and then later the averages. So name. And this is just going to be items. And in our eCharts thing, we receive not data points, but items. All right, I think with that in place, we should be able to just, yeah, let's see. Yeah, so it works now. If we click on data points, still works. Great. Yeah, but we're always reloading all the data points, so that's not so great. Yeah, but it's okay for now. It's okay for now. I just want to toggle between these two. It's not perfect, but it's all right. Yeah, so now if we go to the other tab, then if we go to averages, we want to set up the averages. And what we basically do here, instead of fetching the data points, we're gonna do get average per minute. Yep. Alrighty. So now we push our data to the front end, but we don't really listen to that stuff yet. So our eCharts doesn't know how to handle that information. So we need to set up another handler here for the averages. And yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna rename this here to inserted add. It seems to me like we have a datetime here, the bucket basically, but it seems better to me to name it inserted add because that's basically what we do here. So I'm just gonna keep the inserted add. Let's see. So we need to add the, yeah, we need to add the new averages. And well, we don't have counts, so we don't care about the counts. We only have averages. Yeah. And that way we might be able to, look at that. Show the data. That was easy. And now if we switch between, well, the problem now is we don't reset our, yeah, we don't reset our chart. So every time we toggle here, we, you know, and also the datetime is not based on the, that's interesting. The datetime is different here. Why is that? Because it should be now, well, 1450. It should actually be 1650. So this is UTC. But if we go to the data points, all of a sudden they are UTC. Interesting. Yeah. I'm also just gonna add a quick little reset functionality so that we can toggle between these two without, you know, having this weird thing where the data is still in there. And for that we can probably, yeah, we can just do like a set option and then with an empty data thing, and that might work to like reset our chart. Handle event and then reset data points. And we also have the other, this one, the post count. So we have 2 series here. Okay. So I'm also gonna add a new flag here, which is reset, and it's false. But this is gonna be the socket, and if I do if reset, then I'm also gonna push an event, which is just reset and then our name, and it's gonna be empty payload. Otherwise, it's gonna be socket. Yeah, and I want to push that event before we push the items event. Okay, so now if I do the setup averages, I can actually reset the chart. Same with data points, but I don't want to reset the chart whenever a new data point comes in. So only here, if I go to data points, yeah, there we go. Well, not with averages. But somehow when we go to data points, yeah, well, we haven't implemented that event listener yet for averages, that's why. But if I go to data points, then you can see that all the previous data from the averages are actually deleted, and the new data is there. But we need to add that event handler here also for the averages. So our averages series is just called average sentiment. So if I do this, then we should be able to override it. Okay. Now, if I go to data points, it's cool. If I actually click on the tab, it also reloads the data. If I click on averages, then yeah, I also need to remove this series here. This is the count series. So I'm just gonna move this to that. Let's see. Now we go to averages, fine. Go to data points is fine. Go to averages is fine. There we go. Interesting. And then we also need to unsubscribe from the listener. Otherwise, as you can see now, we now we're still receiving data for the new data points, although we're in the averages tab. No. All right. How you doing, folks? Are you still there? Still somebody listening? It's a little quiet in the chat. Okay, now I think we unsubscribed from the broadcast here, so if a new data point comes in, we should not add it to the right side there. Right, well, if you are there, Felipe, we good. Tiago is there too, look at us. The old team being together. Yeah, Felipe and Tiago and I, we used to work in the same team at the last company we all worked for. Well, Tiago still there, so. Nice to see you, Tiago. How you doing? How's Brazil these days? You know, as long as you're there, I'm happy. Like, we could only be the 3 of us. I mean, in that case, I would actually like to set up a meeting or something. But, you know, this is fine. If only you 2 are there, I'm happy. I'm happy. So, yeah. Look at us building beautiful charts with eCharts and TimescaleDB for averaging. That's per minute averages. And you can see, all right, you can already see a bit more here. Lots of work. Everything is great. That is, I guess, how adulthood is, right? And you can't complain in that situation. That sounds good. I'm happy you're doing well, though. You're following me on BlueSky now. I saw that. So we have hopefully a connection there again. Although I also heard that Twitter is now unblocked, or at least they tried to become unblocked in Brazil again. But I think that train has passed, right? Like yeah. There's a huge delay from when I write to when you see my comments. It is unfortunately the case. It's like 15 seconds, 20, 30 seconds. That isn't an issue with Restream, I think. I mean, maybe it's on YouTube, but I don't think so. Yeah. Let me check this here. How do I see my own channel? Your channel. There we go. And then I'm here. I'm live. Okay. New. Manage moderators can support your channel even more ways. Alrighty. It's still blocked, right? Okay. Let me do the community moderation, reactions, timestamps, moderation activity. Maybe it's a delay that I set up here accidentally. Community. Approved users, hidden users, live redirects, blocked words, blocked links, defaults, comments on your channel on, put message in live chat now. I don't know, but if I write here, how long does it take? It's not too bad. Like it's like a 10-second delay or so. 5. Yeah, but sometimes it takes really long. Okay, let's count this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 3-4 seconds. I think it depends on the restream. Sometimes it's fast because like it was like a 3-4 second delay, and that's I guess is okay. Wait, but what you see in YouTube yeah. So what I see in my OBS here, it's pretty fast, like 4 or 5 seconds. But then what you see on YouTube, it's the whole circle going back. You know, that is slow, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Donny. I hope you enjoyed it. Actually, he lives in Brazil too, Tiago. He lives at that huge iron mine somewhere in the middle. All right. Yeah. Yeah. We should all be writing more blog posts. Then I can read them. I could read them on my live stream. You know, just all the blog posts and then comment on them. All right. Yeah. Well, folks, I don't know. How do you feel about this? I think we're pretty done with this whole thing. No? Like we have our averages per minute. You know, we use timescale to bucket that stuff. It's a small country. It's one of the biggest country on earth, isn't it? Brazil. Yeah. What was it? If you're in the northern part of Brazil, then the northern part of Canada is closer to you than the southern part of Brazil. So it's a huge country. But yeah. But now we're on a roll. So I don't know, folks. What do you think we should do? I mean, we got the averages here. We could try to deploy to Fly. See how it works with the everything on Fly basically. Just I think one issue here will be the CPU, like with the model, the downloading of the model. So for that we probably need to set up a caching folder, so that if we download the model, it's downloaded to a volume, and then whenever a machine starts, it loads the model from the volume. You're super curious for next week. The project is great though. Well, next week is going to be greater. That's what you say, right? It's cheaper to fly to Miami than where I live. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah. One thing that I'm curious about though is why is this here properly timestamped and why is the average not timestamped? Because this is a 2 hours, like this is UTC and this here is local time. And I think I store this stuff in UTC. So this is 2 hours later, earlier. Yeah, I don't know. Do I care about this particularity with eCharts? I think I do not care. Because the data points, yeah, they also, are they in UTC? No, wait, this is a U. This is a UTC timestamp. And the other thing that we're getting is a naive datetime. Okay, so this one doesn't have a time zone attached. This one does have a time zone attached. Okay. How how could we do this? The time bucket, maybe we can fix that. Time bucket, time zone. TS, the timestamp to bucket. All right. And you can optional argument as a time zone defaults to UTC. That's the issue here. Can only be used with timestamps, which I don't think we have. The time interval to offset all time buckets by a positive value shift bucket start and end times. We can try to set the time zone. Let's see. If I set this to Europe, Berlin is one, I think. No, it gives me an error. Function time bucket is not unique. Yeah, because we have a timestamp without a time zone, but it's not without a time zone. It's with a time zone. I think, yeah, like UTC is a UTC daytime is a time zone. Yeah. Nah, I'm okay with this. Am I okay with this? I don't really care about this too much, to be honest. I mean, it's one of these issues that you would need to fix. Optional arguments. Also, how do we do this? No. How do you set the optional argument here? Time zone. Here, interval 2 hours, timestamp. Here, 1 month, TS, Euro, Berlin. One month, TS, 1 minute. If I do this, no. I see here. We need to use this selector otherwise, because if this function and this function is misaligned, then we can't group by it. So let's do this one. So we use, as bucket. So we just do this. The function time bucket interval timestamp without time zone unknown. Well, this one. It should be text. Time bucket interval time zone with timestamp without time zone text does not exist. Yeah, but it is not a timestamp without a time zone. I mean, the timestamps are UTC datetime. Maybe we need to convert this to like a timestamp with here. Maybe this one as a timestamp. What do you think? Do you care about this? I'm kind of thinking I don't really care about it too much. Can we use this timestamp? So let's convert it to timestamps. No. Well, you don't care about it, or you do care about it? We're checking SQL, not Elixir, SQL. Yeah. Yeah, it's how to fix this this function here, right? Because they tell me, well, you have an optional argument. First of all, I don't know like how do you even define that, like name, time zone, and then value text? You know, it's not like in Elixir where you can do like, you know, timestamp like this. So I think, but I mean, that's what I see here. So this example is select time bucket, 1 month from a timestamp, and then you give a time zone Europe, Berlin. Yeah. I mean, ideally, I don't need to do that. Maybe I don't need to do this. Maybe I can just convert the UTC timestamp to a timestamps with the time zone. Ah, there we go. But that still does not give me the right time. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Now it's the naive data. If anything, it could be fun to check how you could batch more stuff with Broadway. Whisper running in 2 processes. Yeah, I also don't care about this too much, to be honest. All right. Yeah, so how can we run more stuff? We could, let's see. Yeah, no, what would be interesting is if we, let's go to the pipeline here. So if we just increase the concurrency of our batcher to 2, then we would run the model in 2 processes. So maybe that's how we can improve our count. So yeah, I would like to have a look at our dashboard here and see what happens if I increase. Maybe I increase both to concurrency too. Let's see what happens if I do that. So now you can see we have, whoops. Yeah, we have 2 of each. I also want to print out the time that it takes here to run the... Oh, we already had our first error. Wait, probably it stopped or something. Okay. Now. Yeah, we still see... Well, let me reduce the lock level here. Just to info. Yeah. Okay. So now, yeah, we're running multiple processes here. And if we look at our live view, data points, I'm curious about the count here, how many posts we can now process, because, you know, maybe if it doesn't double, then it's not too interesting, is it? But it doesn't necessarily double here, and it's rather that the times that it takes for the model to process this, like they doubled. You see, this is like 2-3 seconds per run, and previously it was 1 second. So we didn't really parallelize our model here, and our count is not necessarily higher either. So I think it's not like our batch shares are both at 100%. But we did not double our count. Could we run multiple instances of our model? You know, that would be interesting to know. So let's stop this one and investigate. Because yeah, we just call our NX serving here. And yeah, we just start a single serving. I mean, let's just try this one. What happens if we if we just start it twice, right? How does that work? So we can be how can we find out on which concurrency we are? Maybe that's in the context. Let's print out this stuff. Like, I would like to know, am I in process 1 or am I in process 2? And based on that, I would like to call my serving 1 or serving 2. So I'm just going to call this one. So your context not set, petition, batch key, batcher size, trigger size. I guess we could do a petition function. Here, ordering and petitioning. Petition by petition. Yeah, I could just make a random function here. So in my setup here, I'm just gonna do message random 1 and 2 basically. Yeah, and if I start this, then I should be getting a petition key. Yeah, now you see petition 0, petition 1. Let me also do this, then it's not confusing. Docs for annex do mention something about petition distribution. Yeah. Let me finish this one first, and then we're gonna have a look at that. Okay. Because what I know, batch info petition. So I'm gonna do the serving. If batch info petition partition. If it's 0, then I'm gonna do bird serving 1, and otherwise I'm gonna do bird serving 2. All right, let's try this now. Let's see what happens. All right, so our times are 1.7 now, 2. I don't think we necessarily made them faster, but we do get an empty error. What was the empty error? Is it maybe because our the messages are empty? No, that couldn't be, right? Yeah. So our serving, like the analysis is faster, I would say. Previously it was like 2 to 3 seconds. Now it's down to 1. So if we can look at our live view. So now we still have 103. Let's see if we wait like 2 or 3 batches, then we don't see a doubling of the count, right? That is the issue here. And I guess the model also only runs on 1 CPU, so if we split that CPU in 50-50, it might actually be detrimental to our well, okay, the beam uses 3 CPUs right now. That could be 1 for the application and 1 each for the model. All right, Tiago, have a good lunch. See you later. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah. Okay, well, look at that. I mean, we increased our count a bit. We actually now have 157. There was 1. Like we are at, yeah, you know, slightly better. Okay, let this run a little, and then we can look at an NX partition. Oh. Serving. Yeah, NX allows us to define an Elixir process to handle requests. This process provides several features such as batching up to a given size or time, partitioning, and distribution over a group of nodes. Yeah, so that's what we use in our application to start. Partitioning. You can start several partitions under the same serving by passing partitions true when starting the serving. The number of partitions will be determined according to your compiler and for which host it is compiling. For example, when creating the serving, you may pass the following defn options, which is compiler, sorry, let's make this bigger, compiler EXLA and client CUDA. Now when booting up the serving, if you have 2 GPUs, batch 1 will now gather batches and send them to the GPUs as they become available to process requests. Yeah, but we don't have 2 GPUs. But maybe it works for CPUs too. Let's try that one. So what we see now is that we certainly do have a higher throughput here. So we had previously, you know, like around 100 and maybe 100. Yeah. So we like 100 and now we have 150. So it's like, yeah, 1.5x. It's not crazy a lot more. Yeah. But I would still like to not do this here manually, but I would rather like NX to handle that. You know, because on our server we will also not have, hey Peter, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for having you. How's Sentry working? How's the integration with Elixir coming along? Because I'm eagerly awaiting it. You know, I switched away from AppSignal and yeah, back to Sentry for the error reporting and yeah, that. And I'm still waiting for that, you know, very nice like performance, request tracing, that kind of stuff. That would be nice if that would become available soon. All right. But yeah, so let's go back to the application. I'm gonna do this back to one serving, and then I'm gonna do partitions true. And it would be nice to see. Let's do this one. Let's do inspect, because it would be nice to see how many partitions we are starting now. Here the serving, streaming, it doesn't really give you anything there. Cannot merge batches due to incompatible templates. Yeah, I guess that didn't work. Awesome. Congrats, Peter. That is a great thing. I'm very excited about that. I always loved Sentry. Yeah. Unfortunately, our partitions did not work. So, well, I mean, what does this mean? Yeah. I mean, to be honest, we weren't that yeah, bad, right? But it's cool. I mean, you just recently started there and immediately you can add something so important. Because, yeah, I know, like Sentry, I've been waiting for that Elixir integration for quite a while already. You know? But yeah, it would be cool. Because I always loved in AppSignal, they had this performance thing where they gave you, you know, the slowest API request that your application had. And, you know, I always looked at those like every week or two. And then I saw the slowest one and I thought, well, can I improve that a little bit? You moved away from Sentry because it didn't support traces. There you go. There you go. That's why I moved away from Sentry 2 to AppSignal. And then it wasn't that great either. And then I moved back to Sentry, unfortunately. Well, AppSignal, sorry, I shouldn't say that. AppSignal is great. it was just there were a couple of decisions that they took that I didn't agree with in terms of what I needed as a customer. For example, in Sentry, you can define yourself whether you want to scrape the parameters from and the arguments from function calls in your exceptions, right? So you get an exception like, hey, there was a match error, like the function clause didn't match. And in AppSignal, you would not get the parameters. So you would kind of have to guess, what was the input here? And with Sentry, you can also enable that, but you can also disable that. And then you still see the arguments. And that's what I love about that, because I want to see the arguments, like if I have confidential data, I am going to put that on the actor model, like as redact. And usually the logger respects that. So passwords and emails, I can just do redact. And then it shows only redacted in the log and in the exception too. So it's smart enough to do that. But yeah, I still want to see, is this a nil? Is this a map? What is it? So that's why I like Sentry better. And I also had a feeling that the error reports were better. And there was one thing that I hated about AppSignal, and I opened a PR for that too, and they said, well, that's how it is. Which is if you wanna handle logger errors, right? So you handle an error and you actually do a logger.error and then inspect error, right? So you write to the logger manually. AppSignal will not catch that. They will not show that in the error tab, well, in the exceptions tab. So they only log exceptions. And in order to add that to your exceptions, like if you want to have the logger error being added to your exception thing, you needed to write your own logger backend. And they did have a blog post for that written by Sophie de Benedito. But yeah, I didn't want to maintain that. And then the other issue was that all these logging events, they came in as the same error in the dashboard. So I would have like a single error line in my dashboard that would say log error, and then 9,000 occurrences. And well, not all of these 9,000 occurrences are the same error. They're just all errors that I have logged using logger.error, right? So, and then they also didn't really give you like details on what the error was. Like they actually had a list of all the occurrences, but you had to click into every single occurrence to see what the actual error was. They didn't even show you the first line or like the message, for example, or the first 300 characters of the message, and then you can see, well, this is that error, this is that error. So that was really irritating, frustrating eventually. And then I said, well, like I asked them about this and they were like, yeah, we can't, like grouping errors, based on the message is not good, because then you might match, like you have 100 groups if you just have a random variable in the message. I mean, Sentry does that, so it is possible. You just need to sit down and do it. And I mean, grouping errors is one of the most critical features of an error tracker, So like, unfortunately, after like these 2-3 things, which I all mentioned, to them, but I also I sometimes talk to the engineer, sometimes it was a support person. So I just said, well, I'm gonna go back to Sentry. I'm gonna wait until Peter finishes the Elixir integration for performance and so on, and then I have everything I need in Sentry. Yeah, long rant, but now you know why I went back to Sentry, and I don't know, maybe that helps you. Maybe that makes you feel better about Sentry too, because it should. I think it's an amazing product, and very nice people too. So yeah, long rant. Anyway, my dear folks, I think we have reached a point in this project where, yeah, we pretty much finished it, right? Like we have everything running, we have our pipeline running, we have our model running, we have a live view, we have TimescaleDB running. I'm happy with it. Yeah, I'm happy that it's motivating. It should be motivating, yeah. But I don't want to speak badly about AppSignal. Like they're really nice people, and it's a good product as well. It helped me a lot when I launched indie courses, and you just had these, especially the performance things where they were like, yeah, these are the slowest requests, and something takes like 3 seconds to load, and then I was like, oh, that's interesting. So they made it really easy to see the bottlenecks in your application, and that's valuable too. You know, so that's also why I love them. But you know, for these small things where I said, well, this is more important to me now than that stuff is you know, the other stuff. So that's why I switched. Anyway, I'm still waiting for your video course though, Peter. How's it coming along? I guess it's kind of put on ice. It's somewhere here. Ah, no, it's not published yet. Yeah, they're good folks. Yeah, I think the founder is in Amsterdam. Yeah, so yeah, mostly the integration with the database. That was last Tuesday, Doni. The integration with the database. It's not very complicated though. It's just in. So what we just do is we just, you know, write stuff to the database in the dumper. So we have our gen server here, and that collects all the sums and the counts. And then every 10 seconds, it calls itself, and it dumps the data into the database. It just creates a data point here. Create data point with the average, the sum, and the count. And that's basically it. And then to query that stuff, we wrote this manual SQL query here. And that uses the TimescaleDB functions, like the time bucket, which basically takes all these entries and it buckets them into 1 minute buckets. So, you know, if an entry would fall into this minute, it's part of that bucket. If it falls into the next minute, it falls into that bucket. So that's what the time bucket does here. And then you can run averages on the group, so to say. You know, you can group that stuff. That's basically it. So this average thing here that took the longest to figure out, I think the rest was just examples. It's on hold. Yeah, had too much stuff going on, of course. I'm moving to an office next week, and that should help move things forward. Oh, work from home stopped working. Yeah, I bet, right? Didn't you have a kid the other day? I think you also had a child or so, and yeah, I mean, if you have that at home. I know that I also have a co-work now. And like twice a week when I, you know, work for my client, I just go there because I just need to focus, like 4 or 5 good hours of focus time, get stuff done. And then I come back, you know. I mean, I don't have children. I just have a girlfriend. But sometimes it's just nice to have like a different space where there's little distraction, you know, where you also can't procrastinate. Like here, you know, it's my home. So I could just go and I could clean a little. I could do the laundry. I could clean the kitchen. I could play on the PlayStation a little, you know. It's just too easy to get distracted. And in the office, I particularly, I make it a point to not talk to people. I mean, I don't want to be unsocial, but I just want to have that place where I can just go and I don't need to do social interactions. I just work. So yeah, that's why I really like that workspace there. Yeah, but it needs to be modern and like clean and all. So yeah, it took me a while to find it. But Donny, sorry. This is what we did with the database, and you can also see that on GitHub. I'm gonna push it actually. And push. Boom. There you go. Yeah. All right. That's smart to have an office. Yeah. Must be expensive though, no? Like I pay 150 per month. And that is like 120 plus 30 years of tax, which I get back because I do it through my own business. Yeah, you need a quiet space to record stuff. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I asked my girlfriend, you know, I mean, she's also working all day, so it's fine. She has a door she can close, and then I close my door, and we don't have that issue. But if you have people around and kids around, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, you know, I think I'm gonna leave it at this. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with what we've built. We got the averages going on. Cool stuff, no? Like we got the pipeline, we got the bird model. I mean, one thing about the bird model is I would, you know, if we would need to deploy this to fly, for example, I would need to follow this blog post here, which is how to run something with the GPUs. And the important part here is this one especially. So this is how they start actually a live book, but it would be the same for us. So we need to have a volume mount where we can actually store our model that we're downloading from Hugging Face. And then we would need to set the XLA cache dir, and especially the Bumblebee cache dir. And that one would store our model. So that would need to be connected to every server. So that if we start our server, we don't download the model over and over again. We just download it once, store it in this volume as a cache, and then when we start a server, it fetches it from the cache. Yeah. Awesome. Quite cheap. It's not an expensive area. Yeah. And you're in Berlin too, right, Peter? So I guess that makes it easier to rent space. I've been watching the $1 Billion Code series. That was great fun. It still is great fun. It reminds me so much of Berlin, because also my cousin, like my whole family actually is from Berlin, except for me and my parents. We are from Essen, but I've been to Berlin like, every year a couple of times. And my cousin, he's like a year older than me, and he went through the whole phase in Berlin with like partying and all that kind of stuff. And just watching the $1 Billion Code series, it reminded me so much of Berlin. Like, you always have this little ear piercing, and you have like this cool haircut and a little bit unshaven, and then you just go in, just a normal whatever jacket you can find. You go to the club and you party. I love it so much. Sorry, you're in Krakow. Yeah, sorry. I thought you were like in that area. Yeah, I'm thinking about Toby, my other friend. He's in Berlin. Yeah. But yeah, that is nice. I miss that sometimes, like a good techno party. Yeah. Well, now I'm 33. These days are over. Yeah, Philippe, thank you. Thank you that it was really informative. It was interesting for me too. Next week we will get into the whole streaming stuff. So that's gonna be exciting too. How to stream stuff with Membrane, Boombox. I'm gonna create this little website where you can also chat with me, maybe in a better real time than what I'm seeing here. And I don't know, maybe what we could do is like get the chat from the server and stream it to my local OBS, because what you see here, like down there, that is streamed from Restream, and what would be cool if we would get this from Restream, or maybe from my own server. I don't know, somehow like we would have a second chat window maybe, and then you could write on that website and I would see it immediately. It would take like 100 milliseconds and then it would pop up here. So that would be cool. Yeah, let's see, let's play around with it next week. Also the Whisper thing, I would like to implement a Whisper that transcribes my live stream more or less in real time. And that would also require us to deploy a server, that has a GPU, and then it runs Whisper in the background. That would be good. Yeah. It's like coming to a cinema and see the end on the screen. Looking forward to more streams. I tried to join earlier. Yeah, thanks. I have a little announcement. So I'm actually building a little website for myself where you can subscribe to my, where I can schedule my streams. So you would see when I'm streaming, and you can subscribe to them with your email, and maybe even browser notifications. I don't know, maybe that's something that works nowadays, but especially email. And then 5 minutes before I go live, you would get an email saying, hey, Peter's about to go live. You can just click on a link and you would be taken to YouTube, and you don't have to do anything manually. And that way I hope that you would get notified if I go live, because what I hate is like, I go on Twitter and I say, well, I'm gonna live stream tomorrow at 5 p.m. Amsterdam time, and then people first have to do the calculation in their head, like what is 5 p.m. Amsterdam time, and then also they have to remember that I'm streaming, and they will certainly forget it. So what I wanted to do is just a website where you can subscribe, and then you get reminded of it, and you can obviously unsubscribe if you're not interested anymore, but something like that. Let's see. I hope I have it ready for next Monday, or maybe next week, and then you can try it out. All right, folks. I think this is a wrap. This was great fun. Great first project, I think. I think we can be proud of ourselves. Look at that. Beautiful averages over time. And everything we wanted to use is in here. Yes, ElixirConf 2025. I am going to be there 100%. I am not going to go to the CodeSync in Berlin. Unfortunately, I wanted to go, but it's just too expensive. I can't afford it this year. I have to buy a car and that kind of stuff. But next year I'm going to be there. ElixirConf 2025, 100%. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you for joining me for this first part of the live stream. Next Monday, we're going to start with a new project. I'm going to post and tweet about it, just on time so that you know when I'm starting and all. But aside from that, I wish you a great weekend, good rest of the day, and I see you on Monday.